On one dark and stormy night, a mad scientist at Cornell University, hidden from the prying eyes of both polite society and the law, pieced together a veritable Frankenstein's monster from assorted chicken parts and a never-before-seen batter coating. He called his new creation the Chicken Crispy. But unlike the batter, the crispy name would not stick. When this new creation was finally unveiled to the public, it had an all-new identity, and soon, every man, woman, and child across America would know its name. Today, we're dunking into the sweet and sour history of chicken nuggets. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. And let us know in the comments below what other classic menu items you would like to hear about. All right, get your McNugget buddies in a row. And don't let them see the dipping sauce. During the Second World War, the U.S. military seized much of America's red meat supply, and citizens at home were made to ration what was left over. While this caused some to buy their beef and pork from black market meatleggers, a name which makes them sound more whimsical than they probably were, many instead turned to the military's unwanted, unrationed meat supply, fresh poultry. Soon, farmers began raising more and more chickens to meet this increased demand, and many began breeding their birds bigger and better than ever before. While in the war's final months, the U.S. military jumped on this growing market, driving chicken sales to their highest levels yet. Victory in Japan brought with it beef's heroic return to the home front. Chicken sales quickly plummeted, and there was an immediate issue of too much supply and too little demand. For the decade and a half that followed, chicken farmers struggled to sell their birds. Whole chickens were too big for individuals to eat on their own, but too small for the sudden baby boom and the big families that came with it. Enter Cornell professor Robert C. Baker. Baker was a poultry fanatic, and he wanted his fellow countrymen to be just as passionate about chicken and turkey as he was. He'd previously worked outside of Ithaca, New York, and he'd seen firsthand how chicken farmers were struggling to get by. Baker knew that if these poultry pushers wanted to survive, they need to make better use of their birds. His solution? Increased processing, allowing more parts of the bird to be used than ever before. The chickens were less excited about this breakthrough. After receiving his doctorate in food sciences from Purdue University in 1956, Baker headed to a basement lab at Cornell, wherein he devised all sorts of new and innovative ways to make use of chicken. Over the course of his career, Baker would be credited with producing nearly 300 research papers and developing over 40 different poultry-related innovations, including the first-ever chicken hot dogs and the ever-popular turkey ham, just like Mom used to make. Still, none of his other creations would reach the cultural ubiquity of his finest invention, the chicken nugget. While singular in its delectable scrumptiousness, the chicken nugget accounted for not just one of Baker's innovations, but three. It all started in 1963, when Baker was joined by his protege, Joseph Marshall, while attempting to solve two separate age-old problems. How can you make ground chicken meat stick together without using the skin? And how do you create a breading for it that's simultaneously freezable and able to be deep-fried? It's harder than it sounds. What they came up with was a grain, vinegar, salt, and milk powder concoction to bind the meat, and an egg and grain-based mixture for the breading. And thus, in April of that year, without bothering to patent his newfound invention, Baker published the world's first-ever chicken nugget recipe under the name of Chicken Crispies in Cornell University's Food Science Bulletin, Agricultural Economics Research. That issue of Agricultural Economics Research, in turn, was mailed out to about 500 different companies around the country, and it wasn't long before all the usual suspects began claiming that it was them who'd invented the original chicken nugget, leaving Baker, for a time, a mere footnote in the extra crispy history of processed chicken. In the 1970s, America began to fear red meat. People were concerned that beef consumption was leading to high rates of heart disease. All the cigarettes that were being sold at the time probably didn't help either, but those are easier to hide around the house than cheeseburgers. So in 1977, Congress released the Dietary Goals of the United States. These goals encouraged citizens to forego red meat and to instead eat leaner proteins, like chicken and fish. While following these guidelines may have led to a healthier population in the past, the rise of processed poultry virtually canceled out any health benefits acquired from making the switch. Science never got in the way of the U.S. government, though, and red meat sales soon fell. Many fast food joints, dependent on burger sales to stay afloat, began to panic. They needed to pivot fast in order to keep things running. To this end, McDonald's led the charge, hiring famed chef Rene Arend for the job. He's the guy who designed the McRib for them, among other things. Rene's first ideas were a saucy fried chicken breast and a chicken pot pie, both of which the clown quickly shut down. The company then tried their first shot at the McChicken sandwich, the only menu item at McDonald's nobody wants to eat. But after disappointing sales, they pulled the McChicken from stores entirely. McDonald's Big Cheese, Ray Kroc, apparently feeling defeated after these false starts, asked Rene to switch gears and to work instead on making a bite-sized onion ring, as if that would save the struggling Golden Arches. Not all of his ideas were great. Just ask the San Diego Padres. Kroc called this idea the onion nugget.
This is an onion ring that has been made easier to consume.
And the history of humanity nearly took an entirely different direction. For a brief period, onion nuggets even got a limited release, being sold at McDonald's locations in the late 70s for 45 cents a serving. But then chairman of McDonald's, Fred Turner, had different plans for us all. According to legend, he was still hell-bent on a chicken idea, and one day he wondered aloud, "Oh, why not a chicken nugget?" He makes an excellent point. Chef Rene Arend ran straight up to the kitchen, chopped up some chicken, battered it, fried it up, and voila! The Chicken McNugget was born. After over a year of tinkering with the recipe, McDonald's got in contact with Keystone Foods, the food processing company that already provided them with their frozen burgers, and asked that they start providing tiny chunks of processed chicken as well. Then they also contacted Gordon's, famed for their frozen fish sticks, to provide the company with the perfect batter. And thus, in 1981, the same year that Rene created his infamous McRib, Chicken McNuggets found their place in Knoxville area test markets, and the sales were unlike anything McDonald's had seen before. Mickey D's knew they had a hit on their hands, and that they needed a bigger chicken supplier if they wanted to produce their McNuggets globally. So they hit up Tyson Foods. Tyson, in turn, bred for the task an entirely new kind of chicken. They called this new bird breed Mr. McDonald, and it was identifiable by its ginormous breasts, which were even bigger than the breasts of Tyson's famed Chicken of Tomorrow breed. Once scientifically perfected, these Mr. McDonald chickens were then sent to processing plants all across America and were ground into 4 different nugget shapes: the bone, which is sometimes called the bow tie, the bell, the ball, and the boot, all of which were standardized to ensure consistent cooking times, and all of which are still made to this day. Finally, in 1983, the Chicken McNugget, with its barbecue, hot mustard, and sweet and sour sauces in tow, was ready for its global debut, the shock waves of which would soon upend the fast food industry forever. Within the first few months of the Chicken McNuggets release, McDonald's grew into the second largest chicken retailer in the world, trailing behind only KFC. In fact, the Chicken McNugget proved so successful that many mistakenly came to believe that it was the clown himself who'd invented the chicken nugget. Should have gotten that patent, Baker. What's more, before the end of the 80s, McDonald's decided to double down on chicken and gave the McChicken sandwich another shot. And then, in 1988, the McChicken made its triumphant return. People seemed to want it this time around, and while it would briefly be pulled again in 1996, the McChicken had otherwise finally found its footing and was on the menu to stay. Meanwhile, other fast food chains took note of McDonald's chicken-based success and wanted in on the action too. Just 2 years after McDonald's released their McNuggets, Burger King, ever the royal copycat, came out with their first-ever nugget lineup, and Wendy's and KFC soon followed suit. All the while, Chick-fil-A, which first opened its doors in 1946, claims to have beaten McDonald's to the nugget game by a whole year. On their corporate website, they claim to have first started selling nuggets in 1982 at the request of their patrons, and they soon after not only sold nuggets by the half dozen, but in huge party quantities as well. And if you ask us, that's the only size they should come in. Regardless of who was the very first to sell them, chicken nugget madness had taken over the fast food industry, and it wasn't long before home-baked nuggets came to freezer aisles everywhere. By the late 1980s, Purdue was experimenting with all sorts of nugget options, including your standard nuggets, your star-shaped nuggets, and your football nuggets. But in 1991, they would patent their biggest nuggets of all, the world's first ever Dino Nuggets, which are just chicken nuggets in fun dinosaur shapes, and not actually chunks of processed stegosaur. And with Jurassic Park coming to theaters just 2 years later, Dino Nuggets were here to stay. In 1965, the average individual American ate 36.6 pounds of chicken annually. By 2020, that number had increased threefold to just shy of 100 pounds, in no small part thanks to the advent of the chicken nugget, which today yields about 2.3 billion servings each and every year. As the years wore on, though, people started to ask, what the heck's even in these things? Way back when they first came out, McDonald's advertised the McNuggets as being savory chunks of boneless white and dark meat, dipped in a specially seasoned batter and fried to a crisp golden brown. But in the 1980s, the Federal Trade Commission began investigating the McNuggets' exact makeup, just to make sure no McBeaks or McToe Claws had found their way into the recipe. It turns out the original McNuggets were mostly thigh and breast meat, along with a little bit of skin and some salt. In 2003, they updated that recipe to include only breast meat. And in 2016, they updated it again to drop all artificial flavorings, colors, and preservatives. Still, a 2013 study by the American Journal of Medicine found that the nuggets from some fast food chains, while the exact restaurants in question were never specified, contain very little meat, and they instead are made up by as much as 60% fat, which, in fairness, still tastes delicious when you dip it in honey mustard. Around the same time as the study, America went through a pink slime scare, brought about by an expose which aired on ABC. The so-called slime, also known as finely textured beef or boneless lean beef trimmings, is a meat byproduct used as an additive in many processed meats.
This is not fit for human consumption.
Many swore off McNuggets right then and there, even though McNuggets were not and never have been made with the stuff. The McNugget had another brief setback in 2015, when one of their chicken suppliers was found to be engaged in horrific treatment of their animals. But McDonald's and Tyson both distanced themselves from said suppliers, and they've been on the upswing ever since. More recently, in 2022, TikToker Nick DiGiovanni and celebrity chef Linja teamed up to make the world's largest chicken nugget.
This nugget is almost as big as Linja.
What they made ended up at over 46 pounds and utilized 40 pounds of ground chicken, 40 eggs, half a gallon of milk, and 40 slices of bread. And while something so big no longer qualifies as a nugget, that didn't stop Nick and Linja from busting out the confetti and calling up Guinness. Now they just need a gigantic tub of ranch. So what do you think? Who has the best chicken nuggets? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other weird history food videos.